Warning, this video may contain spoilers for Mafia 1. Please do not watch if you have not played the game or its remake. Mafia 1 was a great game with a fantastic story and even better characters. It gave us unforgettable moments that still stick with us to this day. Yet despite all the praise it receives, there are also a lot of things about the game that haven't aged well at all. Whether it's the outdated graphics, clunky gameplay, or some of the weird design choices made by the developers, there's no denying that Mafia 1 has its fair share of flaws. However, one thing that has stood the test of time is the writing in the game. Even today, the dialogue and cutscenes in Mafia hold up quite well, and it's this aspect of the game that allows us to analyze and theorize about the characters and events of the game in ways that we still find relevant today. So without further ado, here are some theories about Mafia, one that might change how you see the game forever. This is Mafia theory. The opening scene in Mafia 1 is perhaps one of the most iconic scenes in video game history. It introduces us to Tommy Angelo, a seemingly normal man who gets caught up in the affairs of the Italian Mafia. We also meet the rest of our crew, which includes the hot-headed Victor and the eccentric Sam. Together, they make their way through an ambush set up by rival mobsters. The boys manage to get away, but only after killing everyone in sight. This sets the tone for the rest of the game, showing us that there is no remorse when it comes to taking out enemies. But what if this iconic scene had a deeper meaning? While it might seem like your typical action sequence, there are some elements of the scene that suggest something more sinister. For starters, there's the fact that Tommy is already a made man when we meet him. He isn't just a normal guy who happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. In fact, he is wearing a wedding ring, which indicates that he is married. If he's married, then he has a family. And if he has a family, then he already knows what it's like to be a made man, because being a made man means being loyal to your family first and foremost. When you join the Mafia, you don't just pledge allegiance to the organization, you also pledge allegiance to the families within it. So when Tommy is introduced to us, he is already a member of the Morello crime family, just doesn't remember it because he had been inducted into the Mafia as a child. This would explain why he is able to move around the city undetected, even though he is wanted for murder. It would also explain why he is able to blend in with the other mobsters so easily, even though he has no experience with the Mafia. Tommy isn't a normal guy who got caught up in the Mafia. He is a former mobster who has been hiding his face from the world for years. And the reason he has been hiding is because he was framed for a crime he didn't commit. That's why he had to put his wife in witness protection, and that's why he changed his name to Tommy Angelo. He was once a powerful member of the Morello crime family, but he was betrayed by his own blood brother, Paul. When Paul took over the family after their father's death, he turned on Tommy and framed him for a crime he didn't commit. This forced Tommy to go on the run, where he eventually settled down in the city of Lost Heaven. There he started a new life, under a new identity, hoping to one day clear his name and bring his family back together. But when the Baroli crime family shows up looking for him, Tommy has no choice but to join them and take part in their illegal activities. And that's how Tommy goes from being an ordinary man to a feared mobster. Now, you might be wondering why I didn't mention the fact that Tommy is wearing a wedding ring in the intro. Well, I didn't mention it before because it could easily be explained away as just a guy who happens to wear jewelry. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it did and make sense for Tommy to be wearing a wedding ring. If he were just a normal guy, after all, he was on the run from the law, and he was trying to hide his identity. If anyone saw that ring, they would know that he was married, and that would blow his cover. Therefore, I believe that Tommy is indeed a made man, and that the opening scene takes place several years before the main storyline of the game. This theory is supported by several pieces of evidence, including the fact that Tommy is able to recognize Sam and Victor right away. Despite not being able to remember anything about his past, it also explains why Tommy is so skilled with a gun, despite never having used one before. And it makes the betrayal by Paul even more tragic, since Paul wasn't just Tommy's blood brother, he was also his Mafia brother. The next Mafia theory is a bit more morbid than the last one, but it's a theory that has been floating around the fandom for years. The theory is that one of the characters in the game, namely Sam, is actually a zombie. Now, you might be thinking, what? How can you tell me that Sam is a zombie? What kind of nonsense is this? But hear me out. There are several in-game clues that point to this conclusion, starting with Sam's appearance. He is always seen wearing a hat and sunglasses, even at night and indoors. This is odd behavior for any person, but it makes sense if you assume that Sam is a zombie. Zombies are known for their aversion to sunlight and their rotting flesh, which can be covered up with clothes and makeup. Sam's signature look is a perfect way to hide both of these things, but there's more to Sam's appearance than meets the eye. Take a close look at his hands, specifically his left hand. You will notice that it is always positioned in a strange way. Sam never holds his hand normally. Instead, he keeps it curled up as if he is holding something in his palm. This could be explained away as just a quirk of Sam's character, except for one small detail. Take a look at the fingernails on Sam's left hand. They're much longer than the ones on his right hand, which is odd because people's fingernails grow at the same rate regardless of which hand they use more. This detail suggests that Sam's left hand hasn't moved in a long time, which would explain why his fingers are curled up. So what does this mean? Well, it means that Sam is indeed a zombie. But how did this happen? According to the game's lore, Sam was brought back from the dead by black magic. This would explain his aversion to sunlight and his rotting flesh. It would also explain why he is such a valuable asset to the Mafia. After all, the Mafia is all about power and control. And what is more powerful and controlling than the ability to raise the dead? Alright, now it's time for the final Mafia theory, and this one might be the most controversial of them all. The theory is that one of the characters in the game, namely Victor, is gay. Now I know this theory might come as a shock to some of you, but hear me out. There are several clues throughout the game that suggest Victor's sexuality. Let's start with Victor's appearance. He is always immaculately dressed, even when he is off duty. He has a very flamboyant style. This is odd for the time period in which the game is set, since homosexuality was much less accepted back then. But it makes perfect sense if you assume that Victor is gay. He is simply expressing himself in the best way he knows how. But there is more to Victor's appearance than meets the eye. Take a close look at the rings he wears. Victor is often seen wearing 2 rings on his right hand, a wedding ring and an engagement ring. This is odd because we never see him with a wife or a fiancé, and it makes no sense for him to be wearing both rings at the same time. This could be explained away as just a plot hole, except for one small detail. Take a close look at Victor's left hand. You will notice that he never wears a wedding band on this finger. This detail suggests that Victor's sexuality might not be what it appears. Therefore, I believe that Victor is gay and that he is engaged to another man. He simply couldn't come out at the time and live a normal life, so he created a cover for himself by marrying a woman and engaging to a man. This would explain his flamboyant style and his odd ring choices. And it would also explain why he is such a valuable asset to the Mafia. After all, the Mafia is all about power and control. And what is more powerful and controlling than the ability to manipulate people into doing your bidding? So there you have it, 3 Mafia theories that might change how you see the game forever. Which theory did you find the most interesting? And do you think Victor is gay? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.